And he emphasized this statement with an expressive whirl of his watch charms. What? Marius retorted. You dispute this? These are facts. They're fantasies. I'm obliged by the favor of Monsieur le Baron's confidence to tell him so. Above all, truth and justice. I don't like to see people unjustly accused. Monsieur le Baron, Jean Valjean did not rob Monsieur Madeleine and Jean Valjean did not kill Javert. Oh, indeed. And how can you be so sure? For 2 reasons. Which reasons? Explain. Here's the first, he did not rob Monsieur Madeleine seeing as Jean Valjean is himself Monsieur Madeleine. What story's this you're telling me? And here's the second, he did not murder Javert seeing as the person who killed Javert was Javert. What do you mean? Javert committed suicide. Prove it. Prove it, cried Marius, beside himself. Scanning his sentence as if it were a classic Alexandrine line, Thénardier replied, Police officer Javert was found drowned under a boat at the Ponochange. But go on, prove it. Thénardier drew from his pocket a large grey envelope that appeared to contain folded sheets of different sizes. I have my records, he said calmly. And he added, Monsieur le Baron, in your interests I wanted to acquire a thorough knowledge of Jean Valjean. I say that Jean Valjean and Monsieur Madeleine are one and the same man, and I say that Javert had no other murderer than Javert, and when I speak, it is because I have evidence. Not handwritten evidence, handwriting is suspect, handwriting is adaptable, but printed evidence. As he spoke, Thénardier extracted from the envelope 2 newspapers, yellowed, faded, and smelling strongly of tobacco. One of these 2 newspapers, coming apart at every fold and falling away in squares, seemed much older than the other. 2 facts, 2 pieces of evidence, said Thénardier. And he held out to Marius the 2 unfolded newspapers. These 2 newspapers are known to the reader. The older one, a copy of Le Drapeau Blanc of the 25th of July 1823, the text of which we saw on page 328 of this book, identified Monsieur Madeleine as Jean Valjean. The other, Le Moniteur of the 15th of June 1832, announced the suicide of Javert, adding that it appeared from an oral report Javert had made to the chief of police that, having been taken prisoner inside the Rue de la Chanvrerie barricade, he owed his life to an insurgent who held him at his mercy and instead of blowing his brains out had fired his pistol into the air. Marius read. Here was evidence, of certain date, irrefutable proof. These 2 newspapers had not been printed for the express purpose of backing up Thénardier's assertions. The report published in Le Moniteur was an official statement issued by police headquarters. Marius could entertain no doubts. The bank clerk's information was wrong, and he himself had been mistaken. Jean Valjean, his stature suddenly enhanced, was emerging from darkness. Marius could not hold back a cry of joy. Well then, this poor wretch is a man to be admired. All that wealth was truly his. He is Madeleine, the salvation of a whole region. He is Jean Valjean, Javert's savior. He's a hero. He's a saint. He's no saint and he's no hero, said Thénardier. He's a murderer and a thief. And he added in the tone of a man beginning to feel he has some authority, let's not get excited. Thief, murderer, these words that Marius thought had been dispelled, here they were again, dousing him like an ice-cold shower. Still, he said. Just the same, said Thénardier. Jean Valjean didn't rob Madeleine, but he's a thief. He didn't kill Javert, but he's a murderer. Are you talking, said Marius, about that paltry theft of 40 years ago, expiated, as your newspapers themselves say, by a whole lifetime's repentance, self-sacrifice, and virtue? I say murder and theft, Monsieur le Baron, and I repeat that I'm talking about actual facts. What I have to reveal to you is absolutely unknown. This is new information. And perhaps you'll find in it the source of that wealth so cunningly offered to Madame La Baronne by Jean Valjean. I say cunningly because to worm your way, with a gift of this kind, into a respectable household whose comforts you'll then share, and at one stroke to conceal your crime, enjoy the benefits of your thievery, cover up your name and create a family for yourself, that would take some doing. I could interrupt you there, Marius remarked, but go on. Monsieur le Baron, I'm going to tell you all, leaving the recompense to your generosity. This secret is worth solid gold. You'll say to me, why didn't you go to Jean Valjean? For a very simple reason. I know he's divested himself in your favor, and I think it's an ingenious device. But now he hasn't got a sou to his name, he'd show me his empty hands, and since I need money for my journey to La Joya, I prefer you, who've got everything, to him, who's got nothing. I'm a bit tired, allow me to take a seat. Marius sat down and motioned him to sit down too. Thénardier settled himself on an upholstered chair, picked up the two newspapers, thrust them back into their envelope, and tapping on Le Drapeau Blanc with his fingernail murmured, "This one was difficult to get hold of." With that, he crossed his legs and leaned back, an attitude characteristic of people who are sure of what they are saying. Then, solemnly dwelling on his words, he began, Monsieur le Baron, about a year ago, on the 6th of June 1832, the day of the riot, a man was in Paris's great sewer, where the drain comes down to the Seine, between the Pont des Invalides and the Pont des Hyènes. Marius suddenly pulled his chair closer to Thénardier's. Thénardier noticed this movement, and continued with the deliberation of an orator who holds his audience's attention and senses his adversary trembling at his words, forced into hiding, for reasons that got nothing to do with politics. As it happens, this man had taken up residence in the sewer and had a key to it. It was, I repeat, the 6th of June. It might have been 8 o'clock in the evening. The man heard a sound inside the sewer. Very surprised, he hunkered down and kept watch. It was the sound of footsteps, of someone walking in the dark, of someone coming towards him. Strange to relate, there was another man besides himself in the sewer. The sewer's exit grill wasn't far off. A bit of light coming from it enabled him to recognize the newcomer, and he could see that this man was carrying something on his back. He walked with a stoop. The man walking with a stoop was an ex-convict, and what he was hauling on his shoulders was a corpse. A murder, if ever there was one, in the very act of being committed. As for theft, that goes without saying. No one kills a man for nothing. This convict was on his way to dump that body in the river. One thing worth mentioning is that before reaching the exit grill, this ex-convict, who'd come a long way in the sewer, would have had to have encountered a dreadful sinkhole where you'd think he might have left the body, but sewermen working at the sinkhole would have found the murdered man the very next day, and that didn't suit the murderer. He preferred to make his way through that sinkhole with his burden, and it must have cost him the most terrible effort. You couldn't take any greater risk with your life. I don't understand how he came out of it alive. Marius's chair moved nearer. Thénardier took the opportunity to take a deep breath. He resumed. Monsieur le Baron, a sewer is not the Champ de Mars. You've got nothing there, not even space. Two men inside it are bound to meet. That's what happened. The man who'd taken up residence there and the one who was passing through couldn't avoid each other, a matter of regret to both of them. The one passing through said to the other, "You see what I've got on my back, I must get out, you've got the key, give it to me." That convict was a man of tremendous strength. He wasn't to be refused. Yet the man who had the key kept him talking, just to gain time. He took a good look at that dead man, but he couldn't see anything, except that he was young, well-dressed, rich-looking, and his face all bloodied. While chatting away, the man contrived to tear the murdered man's coat and rip off a piece from behind without the murderer noticing. Incriminating evidence, you understand. A way of retracing things and proving the criminal guilty of his crime. He put this incriminating evidence in his pocket. After that he opened the grill, let the man out with his load on his back, closed the grill again and cleared off, not very keen to get mixed up in the rest of the intrigue and above all not wanting to be there when the murderer threw his victim in the river. You understand now. The one who was carrying the corpse was Jean Valjean. The one who had the key is speaking to you at this very moment. And the fragment of the coat. Thénardier completed the sentence by drawing from his pocket and holding up at eye level, pinned between his two thumbs and his two forefingers, a tattered shred of black cloth all darkly stained. Marius had risen to his feet, pale, scarcely breathing, staring at the fragment of black cloth, and without uttering a word, without taking his eyes off that scrap of material, he backed across the room and with his right hand stretched out behind him groped along the wall for a key in the lock of a cupboard by the chimney. He found this key, opened the cupboard, stuck his arm into it without looking, his bewildered gaze riveted to the scrap that Thénardier held up. Meanwhile, Thénardier continued. Monsieur le Baron, I have the strongest grounds for believing that the murdered young man was a wealthy stranger lured into a trap by Jean Valjean, and the bearer of a huge sum of money. That young man was myself, and here's the coat, cried Marius, and he threw onto the floor an old black coat, all stained with blood. Then, snatching the fragment from Thénardier's hands, he crouched down over the coat and placed the shred against the ripped edge of the coat. They matched perfectly and the scrap of material supplied the coat's missing piece. Thénardier was thunderstruck. He thought, well, I'm blowed. Marius rose to his feet, quivering, frantic, radiant. He fumbled in his pocket and, furious, marched over to Thénardier, holding out towards him and almost pushing in his face a fistful of 501,000-franc banknotes. You're an infamous wretch. You're a liar, a slanderer, a villain. You came to accuse a man of wrongdoing, you've completely cleared him. You wanted to ruin him, you've succeeded only in crowning him with glory. And you're the one who's a thief. And you're the one who's a murderer. I saw you, Thénardier Jondrette, in that squalid place on Boulevard de l'Hôpital. I know enough about you to have you put in chains, and worse if I chose. Here, that's 1,000 francs for you, blackguard that you are. And he threw a 1,000-franc note at Thénardier. Ah! Jondrette Thénardier, you nasty piece of work. Let this be a lesson to you, you peddler of secrets, you mystery-monger, you grubber in the shadows, you wretch. Take these 500 francs and get out of here. Waterloo is your salvation. Waterloo, growled Thénardier, pocketing the 500 francs along with the 1,000. Yes, murderer. Where you saved the life of a colonel, a general, said Thénardier, raising his head. A colonel, repeated Marius angrily. I wouldn't give a quarter so for a general. And you come here to spread slander. I tell you that you're the one guilty of all those crimes. Go away. Disappear. I just hope you're successful. Ah, you monster. Here's another 3,000 francs. Take them. You're to leave for America no later than tomorrow, together with your daughter, for your wife is dead, you dreadful liar. I'll be watching to make sure you leave, villain, and at that point I'll pay you 20,000 francs. Go and get yourself hanged elsewhere. Monsieur le Baron, replied Thénardier, bowing down to the ground, my eternal gratitude. And Thénardier went away understanding nothing, astounded and delighted by this gentle battering with sacks of gold and this storm of banknotes breaking over him. Thunderstruck he was, but also pleased, and he would have been very annoyed by any lightning rod that had protected him against these particular thunderbolts. Let us have done with this man once and for all. 2 days after the events we are now recounting he set off for America, thanks to Marius, under a false name with his daughter Azelma, equipped with a bill of exchange for 20,000 francs to be drawn in New York. The moral destitution of Thénardier, that bourgeois monk, was incurable. He was in America what he had been in Europe. Contact with a wicked man is sometimes enough to corrupt a good deed, and to cause something bad to result from it. With Marius's money, Thénardier established himself as a slave trader. As soon as Thénardier was out of the house, Marius rushed into the garden, where Cosette was still taking her stroll. Cosette! Cosette, he cried. Come! Come quickly! Let's go! Basque, a carriage! Cosette, come! Oh, my God! It was he who saved my life. Let's not waste a minute. Put on your shawl. Cosette thought he was mad, and obeyed. He could not breathe. He put his hand on his heart to curb its palpitations. He strode back and forth, he hugged Cosette. Ah! Cosette! What a wretch I am, he said. Marius was bewildered. He began to glimpse in Jean Valjean some sad and noble figure. An extraordinary virtuousness became apparent to him, a supreme and gentle virtuousness, humble in its immensity. The convict was undergoing a Christ-like transfiguration. Marius was dazzled by this wonder. He did not know exactly what he was seeing, but he saw its greatness. Within an instant a cab was at the door. Marius helped Cosette in and jumped in himself. Driver, he said, Rue de l'Arme, number 7. The carriage set off. Ah, what a pleasure, said Cosette. Rue de l'Arme, I dared not mention it to you anymore. We're going to see Monsieur Jean. Your father, Cosette. Your father more than ever. Cosette, I've worked it out. You told me you'd never received the letter I sent to you with Gavroche. It must have fallen into his hands. Cosette, he went to the barricade to save me. As he can't help but be an angel, while he was about it he saved others too. He saved Javert. He rescued me from that abyss so as to give me to you. He carried me on his back through that dreadful sewer. Ah! I'm an ungrateful monster. Cosette, having been your protector, he was mine. Just imagine, there was a terrible sinkhole where a man could drown 100 times over, drown in mud. Cosette, he carried me through it. I was unconscious. I saw nothing, I heard nothing, I could know nothing of my own perilous experience. We're going to fetch him, to bring him back with us. No matter what he says, he won't ever leave us again. I only hope he's at home. I only hope we can find him. I shall venerate him for the rest of my life. Yes, that must be it, you see, Cosette. Gavroche must have delivered my letter to him. All is explained. You understand? Cosette did not understand a word. You're right, she told him. Meanwhile, the cab drove on. From darkness into light. On hearing the knock at his door, Jean Valjean turned round. Come in, he said weakly. The door opened. Cosette and Marius appeared. Cosette rushed into the room. Marius remained standing on the threshold, leaning against the doorpost. Cosette, said Jean Valjean, and he straightened up in his chair, his trembling arms outstretched, looking drawn, ashen, in a bad way, with an immense joy in his eyes. Choked with emotion, Cosette fell on Jean Valjean's breast. Father, she said. Overwhelmed, Jean Valjean faltered, Cosette. Here. You, madam. You, my dear. Oh my God. And clasped in Cosette's arms, he exclaimed, It's you. You've come. So you forgive me. Lowering his eyelids to prevent his tears from flowing, Marius took a step forward and, between lips convulsively tightened to check the sobs, he murmured, My father. And you too forgive me, said Jean Valjean. Marius was at a loss for words, and Jean Valjean added, Thank you. Cosette threw off her shawl and tossed her hat onto the bed. "They're getting in my way," she said. And sitting on the old man's lap, she brushed back his white hair with an adorable gesture and kissed his brow. Jean Valjean submitted to this in bewilderment. Cosette, who had only a very confused understanding of the situation, redoubled her caresses, as though she wanted to repay Marius's debt. Jean Valjean mumbled, "How stupid! I thought I'd never see her again." "Imagine, Monsieur Pontmercy, at the very moment you came in, I was saying to myself, that's all over. Here's her little dress, I'm a wretched man, I shall never see Cosette again. I was saying that at the very moment you were climbing the stairs. What a fool I was. That's how foolish you can be. But that's not taking the good Lord into account. The good Lord says, you think you're going to be abandoned, silly. No, it's not going to turn out like that. Look, there's a poor old man in need of an angel. And the angel comes. And he sees his Cosette again. He sees his little Cosette again. Oh, I was so unhappy." For a moment he could not speak, then he resumed. "I really needed to see Cosette for a little while every so often. A heart needs a bone to gnaw on. Yet I was well aware I was unwanted. I reasoned with myself, they don't need you, keep out of their way, you've no right to outstay your welcome. Oh, thank God, I'm seeing her again. You know, Cosette, your husband is very handsome? Ah! That's a pretty embroidered collar you're wearing. My compliments. I like the pattern. It was your husband who chose it, wasn't it? And you ought to have some cashmere shawls. Monsieur Pontmercy, let me speak to her the way I used to. It won't be for long." And Cosette chided him, "How unkind you were to leave us like that. Where did you go? Why were you away for such a long time? Before, your trips lasted no more than 3 or 4 days. I sent Nicolette round, and the answer was always he's away. When did you get back? Why didn't you let us know? You know, you're much changed. Oh, what a naughty father. He's been ill, and we didn't know. Look, Marius, feel how cold his hand is. So here you are. Monsieur Pontmercy, you forgive me." Jean Valjean repeated. At that word, which Jean Valjean had just said again, Marius, giving vent to everything with which his heart was swelling, burst out, "Cosette, do you hear? He even goes that far. He asks my forgiveness. And do you know what he has done for me, Cosette? He has saved my life. He has done more. He has given you to me. And after having saved me, and after having given you, Cosette, to me, what did he do with himself? He sacrificed himself. Behold the man. And to me, the ungrateful one, to me, the forgetful one, the pitiless one, the guilty one, to me he says thank you. Cosette, if I were to spend my whole life at the feet of this man it would be too little. That barricade, that sewer, that hellhole, that cesspit, he went through all that for me, for you, Cosette. He carried me through all manner of deaths that he deflected from me and took on himself. Every courage, every virtue, every heroism, every saintliness, he has them all. Cosette, this man is an angel." "Hush! Hush," said Jean Valjean very quietly. "Why speak of all that?" "But you," cried Marius with an anger marked with reverence. "Why didn't you speak of it? It's your fault, too. You save people's lives, and you conceal it from them. You go even further, professing to expose yourself, you malign yourself. It's appalling." "I told the truth," replied Jean Valjean. "No," said Marius, "the truth is the whole truth, and that you did not tell. You were Monsieur Madeleine, why not say so? You saved Javert, why not say so? I owed my life to you, why not say so? Because I agreed with you. I thought you were right. I had to go away. If you'd known about that matter of the sewer, you'd have made me stay with you. So I had to keep quiet. If I'd spoken, that would have upset everything. Upset what? Upset whom? Replied Marius. You think you're going to stay here? We're taking you with us. Ah! My God! When I think that it was only by accident I learned all this. We're taking you with us. You're a part of ourselves. You're her father, and mine. You're not going to spend another day in this ghastly house. Don't imagine that you'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow, said Jean Valjean, I shan't be here, but I shan't be with you. What do you mean? Replied Marius. Now then, we won't allow any more going away. You shan't ever leave us again. You belong to us. We won't let you go. This time it's for good, added Cosette. We have a carriage at the door. I'm kidnapping you. If necessary, I shall use force. And laughing, she made as if to lift the old man in her arms. There's still your room in our house, she went on. If you only knew how pretty the garden is now. The azaleas are doing well. The paths are spread with river gravel, there are tiny purple shells in it. You shall eat some of my strawberries. I water them myself. And no more madam, no more Monsieur Jean, we're living in a republic, everybody uses two with each other, don't they, Marius? It's all changed now. If you only knew, father, what a sad thing happened to me, there was a robin that had made its nest in a hole in the wall, and a horrible cat ate it. My poor pretty little robin that used to pop its head out of its window and look at me. I cried over it. I'd have killed the cat. But no one's crying anymore. Everyone's laughing, everyone's happy. You're going to come with us. Grandfather will be so pleased. You'll have your own plot in the garden to cultivate, and we'll see whether your strawberries are as splendid as mine. And then I'll do whatever you want, and then you'll do everything I say. Jean Valjean listened without taking it in. He heard the music of her voice rather than the sense of her words. One of those big tears, which are the dark pearls of the soul, slowly welled up in his eye. He murmured, the proof that God is good is that she is here. Father, said Cosette. Jean Valjean continued, it's quite true, it would be delightful to live together. Their trees are full of birds. I'd go for walks with Cosette. It's a pleasure to be among the living, with people who say good morning, who call out to each other in the garden, seeing each other first thing. We'd each cultivate our own little patch. She'd make me eat her strawberries. I'd make her pick my roses. It would be delightful. Only, he broke off and said softly, it's a pity. The tear did not fall, it shrank back, and Jean Valjean replaced it with a smile. Cosette took the old man's two hands in hers. My goodness, she said, your hands feel even colder. Are you ill? Are you in pain? No, replied Jean Valjean. I'm fine. Only, he paused. Only what? I'm going to die soon. Cosette and Marius shuddered. Die, cried Marius. Yes, but it's nothing, said Jean Valjean. He breathed in, smiled and went on, Cosette, you were talking to me, go on, carry on talking, so your little robin died? Talk, so that I can hear your voice. Marius stared at the old man, transfixed. Cosette gave a heart-rending cry. Father! Father! You'll live. You're going to live. I want you to live, do you hear? Jean Valjean looked up at her adoringly. Oh! Yes, forbid me to die. Who knows? Perhaps I shall obey. I was dying when you two arrived. That stopped me. I felt as if I was being reborn. You're full of strength and life, cried Marius. Do you think people die just like that? You've suffered heartache, you shan't suffer any more. I'm the one to ask forgiveness of you, and what's more, down on my knees. You're going to live, and to live with us, and to live a long time. We're taking you back. There are two of us here who will have only one thought from now on, your happiness. You see, said Cosette, in tears, Marius says you won't die. Jean Valjean continued to smile. Even if you were to take me back, Monsieur Pontmercy, would that make me other than I am? No, God agreed with you and me, and he doesn't change his mind. I had better go. Death is a good arrangement. God knows what we need better than we do. That you should be happy, that Monsieur Pontmercy should have Cosette, that youth should wed the morn, that there should be lilacs and nightingales around you, my children, that your life should be a beautiful sunny lawn, that all of heaven's enchantments should fill your souls, and that I, who am good for nothing, should now die, all this is surely right. You see, let's be reasonable, nothing else is possible now. I have the firm feeling that this is the end. And then, last night, I drank all the water out of that jug over there. Your husband is so good, Cosette. You're much better off with him than with me. A noise was heard at the door. It was the doctor coming in. Hello and goodbye, doctor, said Jean Valjean. These are my poor children. Marius approached the doctor. He said this one word to him, monsieur? But in the way he said it there was a whole question. The doctor replied to the question with a telling glance. Just because we don't like things, said Jean Valjean, is no reason to be unfair to God. There was a silence. All hearts felt heavy. Jean Valjean turned to Cosette. He began to contemplate her as if to capture her for eternity. From as far into the shadows as he had already descended, the sight of Cosette was still capable of inspiring him with ecstasy. The reflection of that sweet face lit up his own pale countenance. There may be wonderment even at death's door. The doctor felt his pulse. Ah! It was you he needed, he murmured, looking at Cosette and Marius. And bending close to Marius's ear, he added in a very low voice, too late. Almost without ceasing to gaze at Cosette, Jean Valjean observed the doctor and Marius serenely. These barely articulated words were heard issuing from his lips, it's nothing to die. It's dreadful not to live. Suddenly he stood up. Sometimes these very returns of strength are a last sign of life. He walked resolutely to the wall, waved aside Marius and the doctor, who tried to help him, took down from the wall a little copper crucifix hanging there, returned to his seat with all the ease of movement of one in the best of health, and said in a loud voice as he laid the crucifix on the table, "There's the great martyr." Then his chest sank, his head swayed as if he were being overtaken by the intoxication of the tune, and his two hands, resting on his knees, began to claw at the cloth of his trousers. Cosette held him by the shoulders, and sobbed, and tried to talk to him, but failed. Among the words lost in the doleful choking that accompanies tears could be distinguished phrases such as these: "Father, don't leave us. Is it possible that we've found you only to lose you again?" Dying, it might be said, is a meandering process of coming and going, of advancing towards the grave and turning back towards life. In the throes of death there is a groping for the way. Jean Valjean rallied after this half-loss of consciousness, shook his head as if to shake the shadows from his brow, and once again became almost completely lucid. He took hold of Cosette's sleeve and kissed it. "He's coming round again. Doctor, he's coming round again," cried Marius. "You're kind, both of you," said Jean Valjean. "I'll tell you what has hurt me." "What has hurt me, Monsieur Pontmercy?" is that you haven't wanted to touch that money. That money rightfully belongs to your wife. I'm going to explain to you, children, it's actually for that very reason I'm glad to see you. Black jet comes from England, white jet comes from Norway. It's all written down on this piece of paper for you to read. For bracelets I thought of replacing soldered metal links with metal links pinched together. It's prettier, better, and less costly. Imagine all the money that can be saved like that. So Cosette's fortune is rightfully hers. I give you these details to put your minds at rest. The doorkeeper had come upstairs and was looking in through the half-open door. The doctor sent her away, but he could not prevent this zealous good woman from calling out to the dying man before she disappeared. Would you like a priest? I have one, replied Jean Valjean. And with his finger he seemed to point to somewhere above his head as if he saw someone there. It is likely that the bishop was indeed present at this hour of death. Cosette gently slipped a pillow behind his back. Jean Valjean went on, Monsieur Pontmercy, have no fear, I beseech you. The 600,000 francs rightfully belonged to Cosette. So I'd have wasted my life if you didn't enjoy them. We succeeded very well with that glass jewelry. We were competing with what is called Berlin jewelry. The fact is, black glass from Germany can't be equaled. A gross, which contains 1,200 very well cut beads, costs only 3 francs. When someone dear to us is dying, we fix them with a look that fastens onto them and tries to detain them. Despairing and trembling, the two of them, Cosette giving Marius her hand, stood before him, speechless with distress, not knowing what to say to death. Jean Valjean was failing with every passing moment. He was sinking, he was drawing nearer to the dark horizon. His breathing had become irregular, interspersed with a little rasping. He had difficulty in moving his forearm, his feet had lost all movement, and as his limbs grew ever weaker and his body succumbed, all the majesty of his soul rose to the surface and showed on his brow. The light of the unknown world was already visible in his eyes. His face paled, and at the same time smiled. The life was gone from him, this was something else. His breathing dwindled, his gaze intensified. Here was a corpse that conveyed a sense of having wings. He motioned to Cosette, then to Marius, to come closer. This was clearly the last minute of the last hour, and he began to speak to them in a voice so feeble that it seemed to come from afar, and it was as if there were already a wall between them and him. Come close, both of you. I love you dearly. Oh, it's good to die like this. And you love me too, my Cosette. I knew you were still fond of your old fellow. How sweet you are to have put that pillow behind my back. You'll grieve for me a little, won't you? Not too much. I don't want you to have any real sorrows. You must have plenty of enjoyment, my children. I forgot to tell you, we made more on the buckles without pins than on all the rest. A gross, 12 dozen, cost 10 francs and sold for 60. It was very good business. So you mustn't be surprised at the 600,000 francs, Monsieur Pontmercy. It's honest money. You can be rich with an easy conscience. You must have a carriage, now and again a box at the theater, and beautiful ball gowns, my Cosette, and also give your friends good dinners, and be very happy. I was writing to Cosette earlier. She'll find my letter. The 2 candlesticks on the mantelpiece, I leave to her. They're silver, but for me they're gold candlesticks, diamond candlesticks. They turn the ordinary candles placed in them into hallowed candles. I don't know whether the person up there who gave them to me is pleased with me. I've done what I could. My children, you won't forget I'm a pauper, you'll bury me in just any little patch of ground beneath a stone to mark the spot. That's my wish. No name on the stone. If Cosette wants to come occasionally and spend a little time at my grave, that will give me pleasure. You too, Monsieur Pontmercy. I must admit, I haven't always liked you. For which I ask your forgiveness. Now, she and you are just one to me. I'm very grateful to you. I can see that you make Cosette happy. If you only knew, Monsieur Pontmercy, her pretty rosy cheeks were my delight. Whenever I saw her the least bit pale, I was sad. In the chest of drawers there's a 500-franc note. I haven't touched it. It's for the poor. Cosette, you see your little dress there on the bed? Do you recognize it? Yet that was only 10 years ago. How time flies. We've been very happy. That's all in the past now. Don't cry, my children, I'm not going very far. I shall see you from there. You'll only have to look up when it's dark, and you'll see me smiling. Cosette, do you remember Montfermeil? You were in the forest, you were very scared. Do you remember when I took hold of the handle on the bucket of water? That was the first time I touched your poor little hand. It was so cold. Ah, your hands were red in those days, mademoiselle, they're very white now. And the big doll. Do you remember? You called her Catherine. You were sorry not to have brought her to the convent. How you made me laugh sometimes, my sweet angel. When it had been raining, you'd set wisps of straw afloat in the gutters and watch them go. One day I gave you a willow racket and a shuttlecock with yellow, blue, and green feathers. You don't remember that. You were so mischievous when you were very small. You played. You hung cherries over your ears. Those are things of the past. The forests we passed through together, I and my child, the trees we walked among, the convents where we hid, the games, the happy laughter of childhood, are but shadow now. I imagined all that was mine. That was my foolishness. Those Thénardiers were wicked. You must forgive them. Cosette, now is the time to tell you your mother's name. She was called Fantine. Remember that name, Fantine. Go down on your knees whenever you say it. She suffered a lot. She loved you dearly. There was as much unhappiness in her life as there is happiness in yours. It's God who determines the lot that falls to us. He's up there, he sees us all, and he knows what he's doing among his great stars. So I'm leaving you now, my children. Love each other always. That's about the only thing in the world that matters, loving each other. You'll sometimes spare a thought for the poor old man who died here. Oh my Cosette, believe me, it's not my fault that I haven't seen you in all this time, it broke my heart. I go as far as the corner of your street, I must have made a strange impression on the people who saw me pass by, I behaved like a madman, I once went out without a hat. My children, I can't see very well anymore, I still had things to say, but never mind. Think of me a little. You are blessed creatures. I don't know what's happening to me, I see light. Come closer. I die happy. Give me your dear beloved heads so that I may place my hands on them. Cosette and Marius fell to their knees, distraught, choked with tears, each holding one of Jean Valjean's hands. Those venerable hands no longer moved. He had fallen back, the light from the 2 candles shining down on him. His white face looked up towards heaven. He let Cosette and Marius cover his hands with kisses. He was dead. It was a starless night and extremely dark. No doubt, in the shadows, some immense angel stood with wings outspread, awaiting his soul. 6. Grass grows over and rain washes away. In Père Lachaise cemetery, near the common grave, far from the elegant part of that city of tombs, far from all those fanciful monuments that in the presence of eternity display all death's hideous fashions, in a deserted corner beside an old wall, amid the dandelions and moss beneath a great yew tree with bindweed climbing over it, lies a stone. That stone is no more exempt than any other from the leprous effects of time, from mildew, lichen, and bird droppings. Water turns it green, air blackens it. It is not near any path, and people do not like to go there because the grass is high and straight away they get wet feet. When there is a little sunshine, lizards come there. There is all around a rustling of wild oats. In spring, warblers sing in the tree. This stone is quite stark. The only thought in cutting it was what was needful for the grave, and no other care was taken than to make the stone long enough and narrow enough to cover a man. There is no name to be read on it. But already many years ago a hand chalked these 4 lines of verse. Exposed to the rain and the dust, they gradually became illegible, and by now have probably faded away. He sleeps. Though fate dealt with him strangely. He lived. Bereft of his angel, he died. It came about simply, of itself. As night follows when the day is ended. The end. Pigeon, Publishing House, presented. Les Misérables. Author, Victor Hugo. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. We hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this classic, follow the show and leave a quick review, and join us every Tuesday and Thursday for more timeless stories.